The snow was falling like powdered sugar the morning I drove to my parents' house for Christmas Eve. Not heavy, just a soft, silent dusting over the trees, the kind that makes the world feel hushed, sacred. I had curled my hair, put on the cream sweater my mom once said made me look less severe. In the back seat, 5 gifts sat perfectly wrapped, matching ribbon, handwritten tags, hours of thought behind each one. For my nephew, a high-end sensory toy, soft blue wrapping paper, tag that read, "To Leo, from Aunt Terry. May your first year be full of wonder." For my mom, a vintage perfume bottle in her favorite floral scent. For my dad, a rare vinyl record he'd mentioned once, 10 years ago. For my brother, Noah, a personalized book on leadership, ironic in hindsight. And for his wife, Lena, who always looked 2 minutes from burnout, a spa gift certificate. I spent weeks picking these. Paid for expedited shipping. Wrapped them by hand. Because no matter how cold things got during the year, no matter what passive-aggressive comments were made on birthdays or ignored in group chats, December 24th always meant one thing. We gathered. We smiled. We ate too much honey-glazed ham. And we played nice. My name is Terry Morgan, 28 years old, and this is the story of how I walked into my childhood home with love in my arms and walked out with nothing but truth in my heart. If you've ever felt betrayed by the people who should have been your biggest supporters, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button, subscribe, and share this story. Let me know in the comments. Have you ever had to walk away to save yourself? This story is for you. I pulled into the driveway in Cedar Grove, Ohio, the kind of quiet suburb where every house has a porch swing and a golden retriever. The lights were twinkling in the living room window. Through the glass, I could see Leo, my nephew, wide-eyed and giggling in Lena's arms. Familiar. Warm. Like coming home. I rang the bell. Gifts stacked in my arms, like some kind of emotional offering. The door opened.
My mom looked surprised.
Not the, "Oh, you're here," kind. More like I was early to a party I wasn't invited to. She didn't smile. Behind her, Noah was already sipping something from a crystal glass. No greeting. No hug. Just my mom stepping forward and saying it just like that. "Can't you just disappear?" I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because I thought I misheard her. Or maybe she was trying to be dramatic, the let's not ruin the holidays kind of way. "What? You ruined your brother's life," she snapped, voice louder now, slicing through the doorway like it had been waiting all year to get out. She gestured toward Noah like he was a monument. "Do you even understand what you've done? What this year has cost him?" Before I could respond, my dad appeared behind them, arms crossed like an angry mall security guard. And then came the line, "From now on, you are not part of this family." It was rehearsed. Too clean. He must have said it out loud to himself a dozen times before today, waiting for the moment to deliver it. And it landed hard. I didn't say a word. Not because I was being stoic or noble or brave. I didn't say anything because I couldn't speak. My hands were still full. I stood there with 5 carefully wrapped gifts and nowhere to set them down. My stomach clenched so tightly it felt like I'd swallowed a fist. I thought of the baby toy, the soft blue paper, the handwritten tag. I thought of how I'd been here every year since I was born. Of how I used to sit by the fireplace and help hang stockings. Of the time I accidentally spilled cranberry sauce all over the white tablecloth and cried for an hour. And my dad just laughed and told me it was the most color that table had ever seen. But now I was a stranger with gifts they didn't want. So I nodded. Not out of agreement. Because I needed to move to breathe. I turned around, walked back to my car, placed the gifts gently in the back seat, and drove away without looking in the rearview mirror. That night, I didn't eat dinner. I just sat on the floor of my apartment with a mug of herbal tea that went cold in my hands and the sound of someone else's holiday joy leaking through my walls. I didn't cry. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But something inside me had snapped quietly, like a thread you didn't know was holding everything together. That was the night I realized something important. Sometimes the worst betrayal doesn't come from enemies. It comes from the people who once taught you how to wrap a present, who signed their names next to yours on a holiday card, who raised you to believe love meant showing up until they decided it didn't. And here's the part one still can't believe. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just left. Because something in me knew this wasn't the beginning of the end. It was just the beginning. When I was little, I used to think my parents had two sets of eyes. One for my brother, Noah, bright, proud, always searching for reasons to cheer. And one for me, squinting, distant, like they were still trying to figure out what exactly I was supposed to be. I wasn't loud. I wasn't messy. I didn't crash bikes or climb on counters or need rescuing from anything. I was the quiet kid, always off to the side with a book or a project, trying not to ask for too much. Noah, on the other hand, was the center of the room before he even walked into it. The kind of child people called a handful with a laugh. He was charming, reckless, and could talk his way out of just about anything. My mom called him her sunshine boy. My dad used to say, "One's got spark." I think they forgot I was in the room half the time. The pattern didn't change as we grew up, just got more expensive. Noah dropped out of college twice. Switched majors more times than I can count. Every time, my parents acted like it was a thoughtful life pivot. "He's just exploring his options," they'd say. "At least he's not giving up." When I graduated early and got my first real job, my mom's response was, "You should really wear more color. You always look so serious in black." I used to tell myself it didn't matter, that being good wasn't supposed to come with applause. But it wears you down after a while, being invisible until someone needs something. And they always needed something. So I kept my head down and built a life. I worked hard, saved money, and eventually helped start a small company with a few close friends. We were building something that helped law firms sort through paperwork faster. Boring, behind-the-scenes stuff. Nothing flashy. But it worked. My parents never asked what I did. They just said, "She's good with computers." Like I was a remote. They didn't know how to program. Then Noah's wife got pregnant. Suddenly, everything became urgent. "He's ready to settle down now. He just needs something stable. Maybe you could help." What they meant was, give him a job.
So I did.
It was supposed to be a short internship, just a few weeks of shadowing. I brought him into my team, introduced him around, tried to make him feel welcome. He showed up late the first day, said traffic was bad. We work from home. By the second week, he was skipping meetings and making jokes during team calls about how I was so uptight for a little sister. He didn't even last the month. One day, he just stopped logging in. No call. No thank you. The next time I saw him, he was on a beach in Mexico, shirtless, holding a coconut, posting on social media about big things coming soon. His wife was home with their newborn. A week later, he posted a video tour of their new apartment, sleek, modern, downtown skyline view. The kind of place that doesn't come cheap. Caption: "Invest in yourself. The world will catch up." My parents reposted it and wrote, "So proud." I didn't ask questions. I didn't roll my eyes. I just got back to work. We were in the middle of final testing for our product. We hadn't launched anything yet. Everything was still quiet. Protected. The kind of thing you don't talk about outside your team because you know how fragile good ideas are when they're still taking shape. That's why, when I got the email from a friend at another company, I nearly dropped my coffee. She just wrote, "Thought this looked familiar," and attached a flyer. I clicked, not expecting much. And there it was, a press release from a competitor. They were launching a new product to help lawyers organize documents faster. Same concept. Same layout. Same talking points. Even the screenshots looked like ours. At first, I thought I was being paranoid. There are only so many ways to make a software dashboard look clean. But then I saw a visual flowchart, a structure I'd spent weeks designing, one that wasn't standard in the industry. It was mine. No one outside our company had access to that material. We hadn't shared it publicly. We hadn't even demoed it yet. It was ours. And someone had taken it. There were only a handful of people who had access to our early-stage files.
I didn't want to think about it. Didn't want to make that leap.
But the timeline was too neat. The similarities were too precise. And I had let Noah into our system. I hadn't even thought to restrict his access. When he joined, it was supposed to be temporary, unpaid, basic observation. But I hadn't locked down the folders. I hadn't imagined I'd need to. That night, I sat in my apartment staring at the flyer for what felt like hours. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just felt hollow, like someone had scooped out the middle of me and left the shell behind. I wanted to believe it was a coincidence, that I was jumping to conclusions, that there was some other explanation. But I knew better, and I hadn't even told anyone yet.
Not Grandpa.
Not my friends.
Not even myself out loud.
It was December 23rd. I was supposed to leave for Christmas Eve dinner. In the morning, I'd already wrapped the presents, one for each of them, including a soft toy for Noah's baby that I'd ordered months ago, back when I still believed I was part of this family. I looked at the box sitting by the door and wondered if I'd still go. Because part of me, the part that had always kept showing up, still wanted to believe I was wrong. That maybe this time I'd walk into a house where I wouldn't have to earn my place. That maybe they'd finally see me. By the time I showed up for Christmas, I hadn't seen any proof, not the receipts, not the emails, not the confirmation that my brother had taken something from me and sold it like it was his to give. But I'd asked our company lawyer to look into it quietly, just in case. Turns out, just in case was about to blow up my entire holiday. What I didn't know that morning, gift bags clutched in my hands, snow slushing up the back of my boots, was that our lawyer had already reached out to the competitor. Just a polite legal heads up. Nothing nuclear yet. But it didn't stay polite for long, because the competitor took intellectual property theft seriously. They reached out to Noah. And Noah, being Noah, didn't call to come clean. He ran to our parents first, wailing about how I was trying to ruin him, how I'd always been jealous, how I'd hacked his business plans and turned it into a legal mess. So when I showed up with hand-picked gifts, real ones, not regifted candles or Amazon gift cards, I walked into a storm that had been brewing. Behind my back, "Can't you just disappear?" My mom snapped before I even got both boots off. And my dad, bless his consistently spineless heart, added, "From now on, you are not part of this family." I didn't say a word, just turned, walked back to the car, drove off with the presents still in the trunk. I ate dinner alone that night, leftover stir-fry and a glass of water. The food was okay. The silence not so much. 3 days later, the confirmation came in like a slow-motion car crash. Our lawyer called, and didn't even try to soften the blow. Yes, Terry. He downloaded everything, source code, internal notes, diagrams, some of it watermarked. He sold the entire package to a competitor for $350,000. I said nothing. She kept talking. He claimed he developed it himself and hired a freelance team to build it. What he didn't know, of course, is that your product is patented in your name. They're shutting down the project immediately. And they're furious. They want their money back, plus damages. I thanked her and hung up. Then I sat on the floor of my tiny apartment and stared at the wall for about 10 minutes. I don't remember breathing. Noah had stolen from me. But worse than that, he dragged my name through the dirt to cover it. And our parents had bought it. When the phone rang again, I already knew who it was. "Terry," Mom said in the same tone she used when I forgot to send a birthday card to her bridge partner. "I heard from Noah. He's struggling." Struggling. That was the word she used. Not stealing. Not lying. Struggling. "You need to understand," she continued. "He was under pressure, with the baby, the rent, trying to build a future for his family." I almost laughed. I didn't. "And you went and made things worse," she said. "You should have come to us instead of involving lawyers." I blinked. "You mean instead of protecting the thing I spent years building?" "That's not the point," she snapped. "You always do this. You make everything about you." I hung up, not in rage, not for drama, just hung up like ending a bad movie halfway through. And then I stopped everything. The monthly payments I'd been sending them to help with their mortgage? Gone. The quiet Venmo transfers to Noah when he'd claim his card got blocked again? Done. I didn't send a letter. I didn't make a speech. I just stopped. There's a certain silence that settles in after you stop trying to earn people's love. Not the peaceful kind, at first. The kind that rattles, like a fridge that's just lost power. The quiet reminds you of how loud everything used to be. I let the quiet stay. And I got back to work. 3 days after Christmas, I opened my front door to find my entire family standing on the porch with suitcases. Noah had the nerve to look annoyed, like I'd made them wait too long. My mom had that brittle smile she used when trying to appear reasonable for the neighbors. And my dad was holding a crock pot, his idea of a peace offering. Just for a few days, Mom said breezily. Stepping forward like this was a hotel check-in. The house is being remodeled to get it ready to sell. Fresh paint, new fixtures, chaos. I blinked. You're selling the house? She nodded, like I should be proud. We've got a staging company coming in. Obviously, we can't stay there. Noah rolled his eyes. It's literally your fault we have to do this. And Mom continued, ignoring him. It just made sense to come here. You've got space. And well, you owe your family. She didn't even ask. He just walked in. Dad followed, clutching the crock pot. Noah brought up the rear, muttering about Wi-Fi. I stood frozen, watching them scatter into my living room like they belonged. You can't be serious, I finally said. Noah plopped onto my couch. You ruined everything, Terry. This is the least you can do. I felt like something snapped inside. Not the dramatic throw-a-vase kind. Just clarity. I turned to my mom. You've spent my whole life making excuses for him. Every mistake. Every lie. Every time he burned something down. You found a way to blame someone else, usually me. She stiffened. You didn't protect him, I said quietly. You enabled him. Her mouth opened, then shut. The kind of silence that only comes when someone's never had to answer for anything. I stepped outside, pulled out my phone, and called security. They were out in 10 minutes. No cuffs. No yelling. Just a polite but firm escort out of my apartment. My mom sputtered the whole time. My dad looked embarrassed. Noah accused me of letting strangers manhandle his baby stuff. The baby wasn't even there. Neither was Noah's wife. Made me wonder if they were still together. When the door clicked shut behind them, I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. That was the last time I saw them in person. Months passed. Word eventually reached me through the grapevine. They'd sold the house. Used the money to repay the competitor and avoid criminal charges for Noah. I'm sure my parents called it a family sacrifice. I call it enabling. They did it and it cost them everything. They moved into a rental. Noah's wife left him soon after. I heard it wasn't just the lawsuit. She found messages from his solo vacation, ones he'd forgotten to delete. I didn't smile when I heard that, but I didn't cry either. One afternoon in early spring, I got a call from Grandpa's lawyer. My grandfather, still alive, sharp as ever, was 96 and still mowed his own lawn. Terry, the lawyer said, your grandfather has updated his will. Everything will now go to you. I blinked. Everything. Everything. I wonder if my parents were counting on that inheritance when they decided to sell their house to pay off Noah's debt. I'm sure they were. It almost made me feel sorry for them. Almost. I think my grandfather was the only one who ever really saw me. When I was 9 and learning to code, he was the one who gave me his old laptop and said, build something. Not be careful. Not go play outside. Build. He saw what my parents refused to. Apparently, he still did. A few weeks later, I was sitting on my new balcony, small, sunny mine, when my phone rang. Caller ID. Noah's ex-wife. I let it ring once.
Twice.
Then I answered. Hey, she said. I'm not calling for money. I laughed, short and sharp. That's a first. I wanted you to know. I left him for good. I found out what he did. All of it. And I'm sorry I didn't say anything. I don't expect anything from you, she continued. I just wanted to say, if you ever want to be in the baby's life, I'd really like that. It hit harder than I expected. Not the offer. The fact that she wasn't asking for anything, just opening a door. I'll think about it, I said.
And I meant it.
When I hung up, I walked back inside and looked at the wall in my office. On one side, the original patent confirmation. Next to it, a photo of my grandfather and me. both squinting into the sun. Wires and tools spread across the kitchen table. Below that, one more thing, a note. You will build what no one sees today. And I did. Thank you for listening. What did you think about this story? Did Terry do the right thing by walking away, or should she have handled things differently? Let me know in the comments below. If this story touched you, please like, share, and subscribe. Your voice reminds me that even after silence, connection can bloom again.